California's golden dream is crumbling faster than a San Andreas fault line. If you own property in the Golden State, what's happening in these 10 cities could be heading straight for your neighborhood next. From Silicon Valley to San Diego, million-dollar neighborhoods are becoming vacant lots as home values crash 20% or more in just 12 months, making 2008's housing collapse look like a minor market correction. These aren't just statistics on a spreadsheet. They're entire communities watching their equity vanish and their neighbors pack up and leave. Which California cities are quietly transforming into ghost towns right now? And could yours be next? Stockton was supposed to be California's comeback story. After filing for bankruptcy in 2012, this Central Valley city fought its way back with new development projects, downtown revitalization, and a surge of Bay Area refugees seeking affordable housing. But in 2025, that recovery story is unraveling fast. The numbers tell a brutal tale. Median home prices have plummeted from $485,000 in 2022 to just $398,000 today. That's an 18% drop, wiping out nearly $90,000 in equity for homeowners who bought at the peak. Houses that once sold in 28 days are now sitting empty for over 112 days, with desperate sellers slashing prices just to get a showing. What's driving families away? It's not just the falling home values. Foreclosure filings have spiked 73% year over year as residents struggle with job losses and rising costs. The city lost 12,000 residents in 2024 alone, the largest population decline in its modern history. Drive through once bustling neighborhoods and you'll see the evidence everywhere. For sale signs collecting dust, boarded up windows, and entire streets where half the houses sit vacant. The ripple effects are devastating local businesses and schools. When that many people pack up and leave, tax revenue plummets, services get cut, and the downward spiral accelerates. Stockton's second bankruptcy isn't just possible anymore, it's looking probable. While Stockton struggles with affordability and crime, another California city is battling different but equally devastating forces. Bakersfield built its identity on black gold, and now that foundation is cracking. This Kern County city rode the oil boom for decades, creating stable middle-class jobs and affordable housing that attracted families from across California. But the energy transition isn't waiting for Bakersfield to adapt. Home values have crashed 15.2% from $375,000 to just $318,000. And that's only the beginning. The real devastation is happening in the job market. Since 2023, oil industry layoffs have eliminated 8,500 positions, gutting the economic backbone that supported entire neighborhoods. When petroleum engineers and rig workers lose their jobs, they can't afford their mortgages, and the housing market follows them down. The construction industry saw the writing on the wall early. 40% of planned residential developments have been halted mid-project, leaving partially built subdivisions scattered across the city's outskirts like abandoned movie sets. Builders simply can't find buyers for homes when the local economy is hemorrhaging jobs. But there's another killer blow. Wildfire insurance premiums now average $4,200 annually, sometimes more than homeowners pay in property taxes. When you combine job losses with insurance costs that rival mortgage payments, the math becomes impossible for working families. Drive through newer developments on Bakersfield's edges and you'll see the evidence. Empty lots where construction stopped, for sale signs on every block, and moving trucks heading north toward Oregon and Idaho. From the inland valleys to the coast, California's housing crisis is spreading to cities once considered recession-proof. Salinas calls itself the salad bowl of the world. But this Monterey County agricultural powerhouse is wilting under pressures that are reshaping California's farming economy. For generations, the fertile Salinas Valley sustained both crops and communities, creating steady employment and relatively stable housing demand despite high coastal prices. That stability is evaporating. Median home prices have dropped 11% from $620,000 to $552,000, a $68,000 decline that's devastating homeowner equity. But the real story is what's happening in the fields that built the city's economy. Agricultural employment has plummeted 15% since 2022 as farms embrace automation to cut labor costs. Robotic harvesters and AI-powered sorting systems are replacing farm workers at an unprecedented pace, eliminating thousands of jobs that once supported local families. When agricultural work disappears, so does the demand for housing. Water restrictions are choking off future growth. New development permits have been slashed as the state prioritizes agricultural water use over residential expansion. You can't build new neighborhoods when there's no water to serve them. But perhaps most troubling is the exodus of middle-class families fleeing gang violence concerns that have plagued certain neighborhoods for years. Teachers, nurses, and small business owners are relocating to safer communities, taking their purchasing power with them and leaving behind a shrinking pool of qualified homebuyers. The combination of job losses, water constraints, and safety concerns is creating a perfect storm that's fundamentally altering Salinas' housing market dynamics. Even cities with natural advantages and tourism appeal aren't immune to California's housing downturn. Santa Maria seemed to have everything going for it. Nestled between rolling hills and wine country, this Central Coast city boasted beautiful weather, reasonable proximity to both Los Angeles and San Francisco, and a diversified economy mixing agriculture, aerospace, and tourism. But natural advantages can't overcome economic fundamentals when they turn against you. Home prices have tumbled from $690,000 to $595,000, a devastating 13.8% drop that's erased nearly $100,000 in homeowner equity. That's just the surface damage. The real crisis is happening in the transaction pipeline. 35% of pending sales collapsed in the first quarter of 2025 alone. Think about that. More than 1 in 3 buyers who agreed to purchase homes ultimately walked away before closing. That's not a market correction, that's a market panic. Buyers are getting cold feet as they realize the true cost of living in Santa Maria extends far beyond the mortgage payment. Infrastructure strain is becoming a breaking point. The local hospital system announced budget cuts forcing service reductions, while the school district eliminated programs and increased class sizes. When basic services deteriorate, families start looking elsewhere. The exodus is real and accelerating. Young professionals who might have anchored Santa Maria's future are instead relocating to Arizona and Texas, where their salaries stretch further and career opportunities are expanding. You can see the demographic shift in apartment complexes where "for rent" signs stay up for months instead of days. The crisis extends beyond small cities to affect major metropolitan areas that were once growth engines. Riverside was the Inland Empire's golden ticket during the pandemic housing boom. When remote work made location less important, thousands of families fled expensive coastal markets for this sprawling city where they could afford larger homes and backyards. Builders couldn't construct houses fast enough to meet demand. But when remote work policies shifted and commutes became mandatory again, Riverside's dream turned into a logistical nightmare. The housing inventory has exploded by 67%, with over 8,500 active listings flooding a market that can't absorb them. Home values have crashed from $580,000 to $485,000, a brutal 16.4% decline that's left recent buyers severely underwater on their mortgages. The commute reality is crushing families who bought during the work-from-home era. Average daily commute times have stretched to 78 minutes each way, meaning workers spend over 2.5 hours in traffic just getting to and from their jobs. That's not sustainable for most families, especially when gas prices and vehicle maintenance costs keep climbing. Downtown Riverside tells an even grimmer story. Commercial vacancy rates have hit 23% as businesses close or relocate closer to where their customers actually live and work. Empty storefronts and abandoned office buildings create a ghost town atmosphere that further discourages new residents from putting down roots. The pandemic migration that seemed like Riverside's salvation has reversed course, leaving behind overbuilt neighborhoods and a housing market struggling to find its footing in the post-remote work reality. Even traditionally stable markets in Northern California are showing similar warning signs. Modesto built its reputation as the steady heartland of California's Central Valley, where farming families and agricultural workers could find affordable housing and stable employment. This Stanislaus County city weathered previous economic storms by relying on its agricultural foundation and central location between San Francisco and Los Angeles. But climate change and water scarcity are rewriting the rules that made Modesto work. Median home prices have fallen 14% from $465,000 to $400,000, wiping out $65,000 in homeowner equity. Houses that once sold in 32 days are now sitting empty for 95 days, nearly tripling the time it takes to find a buyer willing to commit to the area's uncertain future. Drought conditions are devastating the agricultural employment that anchors Modesto's economy. When farmers can't get reliable water allocations, they reduce plantings, delay harvests, and lay off workers. The ripple effects spread through equipment dealers, trucking companies, and food processing plants that depend on a thriving agricultural sector. The population exodus is accelerating. School enrollment has dropped 8% as families relocate to areas with better job prospects and more reliable water supplies. When school districts start consolidating classrooms and cutting programs due to declining enrollment, it signals a community and demographic retreat. Drive through Modesto's residential neighborhoods, and you'll see the evidence everywhere. Lawns turning brown despite homeowner efforts to maintain curb appeal, moving trucks parked outside homes with fresh for sale signs, and the quiet emptiness of streets where children's voices used to fill the evening air. The housing crisis is now reaching into California's traditionally resilient coastal markets. Vallejo should have been a Bay Area success story. Positioned perfectly on San Pablo Bay, with ferry connections to San Francisco, this Solano County city offered something increasingly rare: relatively affordable housing within commuting distance of high-paying tech jobs. For years, it attracted young professionals and families priced out of San Francisco and Oakland who saw Vallejo as their gateway to homeownership. That gateway is slamming shut. Home values have plummeted from $550,000 to $465,000, a devastating 15.5% drop that's erased $85,000 in equity for homeowners who bought during the pandemic boom. The city's budget crisis is making everything worse. Facing a mounting deficit, Vallejo has been forced to cut essential services, including police patrols, park maintenance, and road repairs. When you can't maintain basic municipal services, property values suffer and buyer confidence evaporates. Crime rates now run 40% above the state average, a statistic that shows up immediately in online searches when potential buyers research neighborhoods. No amount of scenic bay views can overcome safety concerns when families are choosing where to invest their life savings. Ferry service disruptions have dealt another crushing blow. Mechanical problems and funding shortfalls have led to canceled runs and unreliable schedules, eliminating the commuter convenience that made Vallejo attractive to San Francisco workers in the first place. When your main selling point disappears, so do your buyers. The combination of crime, budget cuts, and transportation problems is creating a downward spiral that's proving difficult to break. As we move further north, even smaller cities with scenic appeal are facing unprecedented challenges. Antioch represents everything that's gone wrong with California's suburban expansion dreams. This East Bay city positioned itself as an affordable alternative for families wanting access to Bay Area jobs without Bay Area housing costs. Located along Highway 4 with BART expansion promised for years, Antioch seemed poised for steady growth. Instead, it's become a cautionary tale of rapid decline. Home prices have crashed 17% from $535,000 to $444,000, making it one of the steepest drops in the Bay Area. That $91,000 loss has devastated homeowner equity and left many properties worth less than their outstanding mortgages. The population exodus is unprecedented. Antioch lost 6% of its residents in 2024 alone, the largest single-year decline in the city's history. That's roughly 6,000 people who decided the problems outweighed the benefits and packed up for destinations offering better prospects. Public safety has become a critical issue. The police department is understaffed by 30%, leading to delayed response times that make residents feel vulnerable and unprotected. When emergency calls take longer to answer, word spreads quickly through social media and real estate networks, deterring potential buyers from even considering the area. Industrial pollution concerns are limiting future development opportunities, creating a ceiling on the city's growth potential. Environmental remediation costs and regulatory hurdles make new projects prohibitively expensive, leaving Antioch trapped between its industrial past and an uncertain future. Our final case study shows how even historically resilient markets can face sudden collapse. Lancaster's collapse might be the most shocking of all because this Antelope Valley city had everything going for it just a few years ago. Home to major aerospace contractors and blessed with affordable desert living within commuting distance of Los Angeles, Lancaster attracted engineers, technicians, and young families seeking the California dream without crushing mortgage payments. That dream is now evaporating in the high desert heat. Home values have plummeted 17.2% from $425,000 to just $352,000, a devastating $73,000 loss that ranks among the steepest declines in Southern California. The aerospace industry that built Lancaster's middle class is crumbling, with 3,200 job losses since 2023 as defense contracts dry up and companies relocate operations to lower-cost states. Climate change is delivering the final blow. Extreme weather events, including windstorms, flash floods, and record heat waves, have pushed insurance premiums to $3,800 annually, sometimes exceeding monthly mortgage payments for modest homes. When housing costs spiral beyond affordability, families start looking elsewhere. The youth exodus tells the real story. Recent graduates and young professionals are abandoning Lancaster for opportunities in Texas, Arizona, and Nevada, where their skills command similar salaries, but housing costs remain manageable. High schools that once fed talent into local aerospace companies now see their best students leave and never return. Drive through Lancaster's newer subdivisions, and you'll witness a city and demographic retreat, with empty houses and aging residents watching their community's future disappear along with their property values. The pattern emerging across these 10 cities reveals a deeper structural crisis threatening California's future. The 10 cities we've examined aren't isolated failures. They're canaries in the coal mine, warning of systemic problems that threaten California's entire economic foundation. Look at the common threads: insurance costs averaging $4,000 to $9,000 annually, massive job losses in key industries, crumbling infrastructure, and climate impacts that make basic living unaffordable for working families. These aren't temporary market corrections. When aerospace engineers flee Lancaster, agricultural workers abandon Salinas, and young professionals exit Santa Maria for Arizona and Texas, they're taking their tax contributions with them. California's state budget relies heavily on income taxes from high earners, and when those earners relocate to Nevada or Florida, the revenue shortfall cascades through every public service. Texas alone gained over 200,000 California residents in 2024, representing billions in lost economic activity and tax revenue. Florida, Arizona, and Idaho are seeing similar influxes of California refugees seeking affordable housing and lower overall living costs. These aren't just individual relocations, they're economic migrations that reshape entire regional economies. The timeline for recovery looks grim. Unless insurance costs stabilize, job markets diversify, and infrastructure receives massive investment, these 10 cities could become permanent examples of California's decline rather than temporary casualties of market forces. Climate change isn't reversing, housing costs aren't magically dropping, and other states aren't stopping their aggressive recruitment of California businesses and residents. The Golden State's housing crisis has evolved into something much more dangerous, a comprehensive economic exodus that threatens California's long-term viability as America's innovation center.